Project for today is going to be this Sears Suburban 12. It's been sitting in a barn for 5 or 6 years. I was told that it ran when it was put away. It looks like somebody swapped a different fuel tank in here. And then the wiring is kind of a mess. It's got a positive wire running directly down to the key switch. And then it's got a hot just coming right out of the key switch to the starter generator. There's no solenoid or anything. So we're going to have to rewire that. So otherwise we're just going to burn up that key switch. They can't take that much voltage to be turning that big starter generator like that. And then, but first off, I think we'll just put some gas in it and we'll see if we can get it to fire. See, I was trying to see what year this battery was. We can maybe get a better idea how long it's been sitting, but I don't see a year on it. But I'll check the oil and stuff, and then I'll put a jumper pack. Maybe we'll get it right on the starter generator, see if we can get it to turn over. Let's check the oil here. It's got oil in it. Doesn't smell gassy or anything. We'll run that. And it looks like, if I can find underneath here, I see a positive lead going down there, down to that starter generator. We'll try to get into that. So I managed to get that hot wire pulled off. It actually just busted right off of the key switch. Because that key switch is already melted pretty good. I think they were using it that way for a while. But I think before I try to put gas in to get it running, I'm going to reroute this gas tank setup. It should have the fuel line coming down through this hole there. So then I'll run it up through here and up. That way it'll be in a little better position anyway. I'm probably not going to keep this setup on here. I just want to use this to test it out. And it's a plastic tank and it's clean. So that'll work. I did get it to, it turns over now. So, let's see if I can do this with one hand. You have to push the clutch in still. But it looks like we've got a mouse nest in there or something, because there's a bunch of junk coming out when I turn that over. But we'll still see if we can get it to fire. And these gas lines don't look too terrible. It has been stored inside, so that's one thing that helps. So I'll get that gas line rerouted, and then we'll put some gas in it and try firing it up. Alright, I got some gas in it. Pull the choke on it. I'll give her a shot. Well, I could see it sucking fuel up. Might just need to crank for a little bit more. Sounds like it was speeding up a little bit, but you can see all that junk blowing out of there. I think that's insulation or something that the mice built in there, so we might not have spark. We'll pull the spark plug out of it and see what we have for spark. Oh wow, that's really tight. Got a hammer, tap on this. That broke loose. I don't know why that was quite that tight. Well, it doesn't look too bad. Just a little bit carboned up. I don't know. Let's see what we get for spark. These do have solid state ignition, but it was an early version of it. It's not looking like we monkey with the key switch. There we got spark. I don't know if you could see that. There we go. One thing I've noticed about showing spark on camera is that with the way the frame rate is, it looks like it's intermittent on camera, and it's not when you're watching it in person. So I'll throw this back in. Maybe I'll dribble a little gas down in there and see if we can get it to fire up. Now let's see if it'll go now. Well, that's a start. Our key switch is pretty messed up. I couldn't get it to turn off. I just choked it to shut it off, but it seemed to run pretty good. There was a heck of a noise out of the pulley over here. We got a couple chunks out of our belt. We'll have to get a new belt for this one. That's the drive belt. But other than that, I think it actually ran really good. I'm kind of shocked at how long it sat, and that carburetor wasn't gummed up and it still ran. We'll have to get the air gun and blow out that mouse nest and stuff in there. And this gas tank, I gotta find something better than that. You can't close the hood. This is too high up, and it does have a crack in it. I notice it's dripping fuel now. We'll get that tore out of there and then go from there. So I shut this valve off. I don't know why it's got so many. It's got a valve here and a filter here and then another valve over here. But I'm going to put some new gas line on it anyway. It seems to all be weeping a little bit. And this kind of fuel line, I think it's Raider fuel line is what they call it. The brand. It's not the greatest stuff, especially for lawnmowers. You don't really want to use that. You're better off with a rubber line. This is all stuck on there. Should be tilted up now enough that it's not going to leak out of there. Take the clamp off underneath. There we go. This was kind of kicked off to the side because it wasn't run through that hole. And there was a crack. You can't really see it too good, but there was a crack in here it was leaking out of, and it was weeping out of the fuel line. I think just to make my life a little easier, I might try to pull this plate out of here. I don't know. Looks like there's a bolt back in there. And there should have been one here that's gone. But to get to that key switch and the wiring underneath it, I'm going to have to rewire a bunch of that stuff. I have a used key switch here, but it has one extra lug. I'm not sure if that's what's in here or not. I might have to find something different. I'll pull this battery out of here. One thing on these mowers I find quite a bit is somebody tries to direct wire the starter. And there's a reason they put that solenoid in there. That takes all the load. These little switches, they can't handle the load from that. When they hit that starter, that's a lot of juice that you're pulling, a lot of amps. So it's not really meant to handle that kind of draw on this little key switch. I'll get some wrenches, pull that out. These things are just bolted in, so I want the nut behind, but I don't know if there's enough room here to get these out. I spoke too soon. There's a nut behind that one. I can't quite get that one all the way out. I think it's going to be the same on the other side. That's even a tighter fit. I think I gotta get one or the other of those bolts out, otherwise we're not gonna be able to slide that out of here. And then it's bolted onto that bracket, which that looks like it's just some 1/2 inch or 7/16 bolts. This one's really close to being able to come out of there. I think I'll just unbolt the side panel over here for the dash. That one's got a nut behind it. These things are pretty compact. I'm gonna have to try to get that other one. That should get far enough now. Let me get this out of here. I don't want to break this dash panel. It's just like a fiberglass. There we go. Well, I guess the choke cable runs through that. We can just prop that up there. That should be good enough. Get us some room. So now we can see down into the wiring. So you can see they had that hot wire from the battery right to the key, which that should go to the solenoid, and then there should just be a feed wire, a small one, that runs to the key. So you can see where they put a little screw through it to hold it through, and that should just be little spade connectors there. The lights and charging system, they seem like they're okay. It's just the starting system that we got to deal with. So I did some digging on this, and it turns out they did use a key switch that was heavy enough to handle the voltage to run this starter generator, and they did not run a solenoid. But I don't have a key switch like that, so I'm going to add a solenoid. I had this, it's way overkill. It's an automotive style solenoid that I'm going to run in there. So that one is just needs a trigger wire connected to this stud, and then the battery positive will go to one side and the starter positive will go to the other side. And then I have this key switch that's out of like an MTD Yard Machines mower, and I tracked down the wiring diagram for this so I know what all these wires do, and we'll wire it in as we have to have. So the charging wire, and then there's a kill wire here that runs up to the motor to kill the ignition, and we have a ground wire here, and then this orange wire is our lights. So I'll get that wired up and then I'll bring you back. Well, I got it all wired up. I got the solenoid down in here. So I've got this positive wire here is going to go up to the battery. And then on the other terminal on there, that runs down. Below there's a switch for the clutch switch. So you have to have the clutch pushed in to start it. So I left that in place so we have that safety. And then this wire here is our trigger wire that runs 12 volts to the solenoid to trigger the solenoid when we want to in the start position. And then the black coming out of the key, I ran to red. That's the hot wire from the battery to the key switch. And then we have the yellow was the kill, so that'll kill the ignition. And the green was ground. And then we had a red coming out that was our charging system or our lights also. So I wired those two into one, and then this runs up to the amp meter here. So in theory this should all work once I get it put back together. I have to put this metal plate back down, and then I still have to figure out a gas tank, and I'm going to put some new gas lines on it. So I'm going to get that plate put back down in there, and then I'll bring you back when we get putting the gas tank on. Well, I found this little gas tank. That was about all I could find that would fit in here, and the hood will close with that, so I think that's what I'm going to use for now. I'll keep an eye out for an actual tank for one of these. I might have one too on something else. I'll have to dig around, but the valve goes down in the hole like I kind of wanted, and then I'll run a bungee around that to hold it steady. But this is just a little tank that was on a racing lawnmower that I had. It was just a lightweight small tank that we used on there. So I think I'm going to leave this little fuel filter for now. We'll probably do more work to this mower in the future. I want to get some better tires and stuff on it. The rear tires don't hold air at all, and the fronts, they hold for a little bit, but the tubes are popping through, so we're gonna have to put new rubber on it and maybe clean it up some, and maybe this winter give it a paint job. Got a piece of fuel line cut here. Put on this side first. I normally like to use the spring style clamps better, but this is what was on it, and that's all I got here. I'm not at my shop today, so but they'll start to leak after a while. Because the tension is the same the whole time, so when the line like shrinks or gets hard, it doesn't really do anything more. Where the spring clamps, they'll keep tension on and keep tightening over time. They'll get a little bit tighter. I have to try to feed this through. There we go. There. Made that line a little bit long, but I'd rather have it a little bit long than too short. That's going to stick out the side a little, but like I said, we're going to replace this tank. This is just temporary. It's temporarily permanent. Well, I got the tank bungeed on there. Good enough for now. We'll throw that battery in it, and then we'll see if our wiring works first, and then I'll put fuel in it after that. This battery back in here. I think this positive cable is barely long enough. But it is long enough. This battery's still dead. I didn't really want to charge that battery yet because I want to hook it up just to make sure none of our wiring is messed up or anything. And we'll do a smoke test. Well, it seems to be working. Nothing is getting hot and it's snapping the solenoid. I don't have the clutch pushed in, so it's not going to turn over. So that all works. So we did our wiring right, and none of the wires melted or anything when we hooked juice to it, so that's good. So I'll put some gas in it and we'll see if it fires up again, and make sure our kill switch works on the key also. Alright, I got some gas in it. Doesn't look like we're sucking any fuel. We'll try it again. There's some fuel coming. So before we take it on a test drive, I'm gonna change these wheels out. They don't hold air at all, so they're blown out on the sides. This one held it for a couple minutes, that other one didn't even. The tube valve stem was ripped off. You can see how rusted that rim is too. It feels like it's got fluid in it of some kind, so I don't know if they added that for pulling power or if it's full of slime or something like that. And I've got these wheels. It's got four-wheeler tires on these rims, but I'm not sure if they're gonna fit. I have to put them on backwards. Looks like they clear everything if I do that. Other than this bender, but it's bent down, so I'll probably bend that back. I'll try to bend this fender back straight. I can kind of see where the kink is in it. This one's kind of. That should fit now, I would think. Oh, that should clear. This is pretty low on air. I'm a little bit worried once I get aired up though if it's gonna balloon up some. And put some air in that. It did balloon up some, but still clearing the fender. That'll really change the look of the thing. I'll get the one on the other side and then we'll be ready to take it for a test drive. Alright, I got the front tires aired up. Hopefully they stay aired up for a little while. We'll fire it up, go take it for a test drive. Well, it didn't run too bad. It was spitting and sputtering a little bit at the higher RPM, so I'm thinking this fuel pump needs to be rebuilt that's in here. Let's see if I can find anything for that. It is leaking just a little bit out of that line under here too, so it might not be. I think this should be the pulse line down to the crank, so that could be sucking air right there too and not running the fuel pump correctly. So on a future video we'll dig into the carburetor and clean up the motor a little bit. I just wanted to make sure we could get it running and the motor was okay in this one. I'm not a huge fan of these Tecumseh engines with the solid state ignition like that. It can be really hard to find parts for them. I do have another parts engine that's I think it's an overhead valve version of it though, but the ignition might be the same still. But we'll do a couple more videos on this one probably, so hopefully you guys like this vintage lawn tractor stuff. I've got a couple more videos of vintage lawn tractor stuff coming up, so subscribe to see that, and like always, like the videos, and we'll catch you on the next one.